right, everybody. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of walk you through the process of how to write your outline for your speech. So an outline for your speech is going to be really, really important, and it's actually really, really helpful to you because it's going to be basically a blueprint of what you're going to talk about. And if you take the time to do this, which it is a grade, so you're going to have to do this, it's really going to make a huge difference in your confidence. It's going to reduce your anxiety, and it really truly is just going to make the actual speech process so much easier. So for your speech, the outline, it's really honestly pretty simple. I will have this outline breakdown file available to you. You are absolutely welcome to download it and just go in here and replace all of this stuff with your own information. So the first thing you're going to need to have, your speech topic. What is your speech topic? This is really going to depend on what your speech is. So let's just say this is your informative speech, and you are going to talk about, I'm going to pick something I happen to know about, Henry VIII. So I would actually put in this space right here, Henry VIII, but I don't want it to be too broad. So I'm going to bring it down because Henry VIII, that's a lot. So I'm going to say the marriages of Henry VIII. So I would put that in there in my speech topic. So my specific purpose, this is where you're going to tell us exactly what you're going to do. So my specific purpose would be to inform my audience, and then you're just going to simply insert your topic here. If this is the demonstrative speech, it's going to be to demonstrate to my audience. If this is the persuasive speech, it's going to be to persuade my audience, and then you're going to insert whatever your topic may be here. So your attention getter. This is really important. So one thing that I really try to stress to students, people are going to decide if they are going to listen to you in the first 30 seconds of your speech. Just think about that for a second. You got 30 seconds to convince someone to listen to you or not. If you can't grab their attention, they're probably going to shy away from it, not really listen. They're going to zone out. So you want to use something that is going to grab their attention. So if I were doing this speech on Henry VIII, my attention getter could be divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Now, when I say something like divorced, beheaded, died, well, beheading, what's going on? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This one normally grabs someone's attention because how often do you hear about beheadings? It's a little crazy. So you just want to make sure that your attention getter is something that is going to grab people's attention. It can be a shocking statement, such as the one I used. It could be a statistic or a joke. So the only thing that I will say with jokes, if you are not a funny person, I do not strongly recommend using jokes, just because if that joke falls flat, it might just become a little bit more awkward for you. So you're welcome to use a joke, but you do want to be careful with those. But remember, this doesn't need to be this big, elaborate thing. Mine was 6 words. My attention getter was 6 words. So it does not need to be this huge, elaborate thing. It can be a quick 1-sentence situation. So your introduction, when you are writing your introduction, your statement, a central idea. What's the main thing you want the audience to know? This only needs to be 1 sentence. So don't overthink this. But what is the main thing you want us to know? So for me, Henry VIII had 6 wives. It's a lot of wives. He had 6 wives. And I'm going to tell you about that. So the tie to the audience. How can this relate to the audience? I love history, and I hope all of you are interested in history too. Any way that you are able to relate it. Let's say you're talking about why college tuition should be free. Easy way to relate it to your audience. As we are all college students, wouldn't you love for your college education to be free? Credibility statement. Why? Why are you knowledgeable? So for me, I'm just obsessed with the Tudor dynasty. And so I've read a lot of books on Henry VIII. So that's what I'm going to use as my credibility statement. Again, you're going to notice something right here. These are all just 1 sentence. So please don't overthink the process. So your preview of your main points. You're going to have 3 main points for all of your major speeches, you need 3 main points. So here is where you're actually going to write it down. Today we will look at point 1, point 2, point 3. Really, it's really simple. If you are struggling with this, please, please, please reach out to me. I will work through it with you. We will find a way to find you a great main point. If you're missing just one, whatever you need, just reach out. All right, so your transition. Your transitions are going to be used to let your audience know that you are going from your introduction now into your body, so into your main point. Your introductions are going to be used throughout your speech, but this is how you are going to let us know, hey, I'm done with that. It is time to move on. Let's go. So it really can be something simple. You could simply say, now let's talk about point 1 and whatever point 1 is, but you're not actually going to say point 1. You're going to tell us whatever that main point is. So getting into your body. When you are recording or when you're writing this outline, it needs to be a complete college level sentence. So what I mean by that is if my daughter who is in 2nd grade could write your sentence, you might need to put a little more effort into it. So I like cats is probably not going to be a very strong college level sentence main point. So college level sentence, again, this is just one sentence. So this is where we're going to get really fun, you guys. So every main point, I would like for you to have at least, at a minimum, 2 subpoints. So this is going to be this thing right here. So this needs to be a complete college level sentence, okay? Now, if you're going to branch off a little bit more, you may need to have a couple more points. And I'm going to provide you guys with at least one example of all of these things of a speech for each type of speech, so you have an idea of what it's going to look like. But your subpoint, so this is just, we're going to go a little bit more into detail. The sub point. This does not have to be a complete sentence. It could simply be 2 words. It could be 1 word. You'll notice as you go down further, we start to get really, really fancy. So you got your sub points. You get down a little further and you're breaking it down a little bit more. You have the sub point. Real fancy, I know. So at least main point, and I would like to see 2 subpoints. Normally those subpoints, people normally end up with like 1, maybe 2 sub points. Very rarely do I see sub points, but if you really feel the need to be really detailed, you're welcome to have that. All right, so you do the way I suggest it, you have to have 3 main points and you need to have at least 3 sources. So to me, the thing that makes the most sense is I'm gonna have 3 main points, I'm gonna have 3 sources, so I'm gonna give each of my main points a source. Now, when you are using sources, you need to actually say, according to, in a study done by, and tell us where that information came from. We have to know. You cannot present this as your own information. You had to have got that information from somewhere, especially if you're using a statistic. You did not get those statistics. You found those statistics from research that someone else has done. So you're going to want to add your evidence in here, work it into one of your subpoints, anything like that. It does help if you are including that source here, just so you remember where you're going to be putting it into your speech. Visual aid, if you are using an object, it's good to just list what that object's going to be, or PowerPoint, whatever that slide is going to be for that main point. To be completely honest, your PowerPoints don't need to be super long. You could do 5 slides and get by with this. All right, so we've got our first main point. We're done. Thank goodness we survived. Now we're going to transition into point 2. So main point 2. So the best way to do this with a transition, the smoothest way, is simply to say, now that you understand, repeat what point 1 is, let's look at how it affects point 2. So I tell people the best thing to do is, in one sentence, you're going to review what you just talked about and preview what you're about to talk about. So nothing super long, super complex. One sentence to do both of those things. Now we know that we are moving on from point 1 to point 2. So Point two, it's going to be the same requirements that you saw up here in main point one, nothing different. Again, that's where you're going to insert your evidence, your source. This is just going to help you out. Your visual aid, tell us what you're going to use there. Now we're moving from point two to point three. So that transition, same thing. Best way, review and preview. Now we're moving on. We're in main point three. We are in the home stretch. We're going to do it, guys. We're making it. So you get through your main point, at least your two subpoints. To be completely honest, the more information you have in here, the smoother this speech is going to be. It's going to be a little bit easier for you. So now we're at our conclusion. Why is the conclusion important? Is it important? Do I really need to make a conclusion? Yes, you do, because think about how many times you've been in a class or while you've been watching this video and you zoned out for a minute. Oh, I don't know what they just said. What did they just say? That conclusion is going to be really important because that does happen. People do zone out and they kind of stop listening for a little bit. This is your chance to sum up what you've been talking about. What was so important. It's just a quick review of what your specific purpose was and what your main points were. So in here, I actually want to hear you say, today we talked about point one, point two, point three. I want you actually to tell me what those main points were. Your closing. This is where I want you to leave the audience thinking. I want you to leave them with something to think about. If you are persuading, you're trying to convince them of something. So this is where you're going to tell them, I hope today you have learned why I feel milkshakes taste better than smoothies. And I hope you go out today and you get yourself a delicious milkshake. So this is just, you're giving them something to think about. You're telling them to go do something. You're encouraging them to do something, to learn about something, all these wonderful things. And then finally, we've written all this wonderful paper and we're so close to being done, but we need to make sure we have a works cited section. This is so important. Please don't forget your works cited section. You must have 3 sources. It is so important to have your 3 sources. So your 3 sources, I would like them to either be in MLA or APA format. So you cannot just drop your website in here. I actually need to have that cited out. So if you're not sure about how to cite these things, you're going to simply go to OWL, they can help you out. Or if you go to bidme.org, they can also help you out. You could put in your information and it will tell you how to cite that information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am more than happy to help you. Thanks, guys.